Hi, welcome to the 1 in 20 show, where we're looking to find the next 1 in 20 individuals who are pursuing their passions with success so that you can too. And today I'm joined at the DC headquarters with Chris Ray.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming out. Thanks for coming to my office.
Coming to you.
Yeah, this is perfect. Literally came to my desk.
You literally came.
Yeah.
This is his office space. Yep. We came to him. So the first question I wanted to kind of pose to you is, what led you to filmmaking specifically in the action sports area? Mm-hmm. Something that I kind of posed this question with different people, but I know that you come from a background that is more sports related, action sports related, and a lot of other people I've talked to are more narrative. And so how did that whole thing come about?
Well, I grew up loving skateboarding. So I started skateboarding in the summer around right after 5th grade. And I think as a skateboarder, especially back then, you're so tunnel vision, and I was so tunnel vision for many years that skateboarding was the only thing and the only cool thing, and nothing else was cool except skateboarding. So that kind of made me fall into action sports without kind of realizing it, because I didn't think of skateboarding as like an action sport. I thought of skateboarding as just the only thing that existed, the only thing that mattered.
Sure.
I never thought I would shoot motocross or I would shoot surfing or anything else outside of skateboarding. So that's pretty much like how I fell into it. Was awesome. being a skateboarder myself.
Yeah. And I've seen that with Abe, who we were just talking about. Yeah. Abe Kitselvitz at GoPro started skiing. He was skiing his whole life, and GoPro handed him a camera, and then he started filming it because he was filming at the same time. From there, once you kind of started picking up the camera and working with it, when was the first time you really turned a corner and felt like you were, not next level, but you felt like you made steps in the right direction? How old were you?
I didn't know that you could do skateboarding videos for a living. And I just always made videos with my friends. And to me, that was mind blowing in the sense of, wow, we can make our own video and we could be in it. But it wasn't until I was, pros started to kind of come to town where I lived, and I started to film them, and I started to get clips in videos where my name was actually in the video. And to me, I thought that I had made it by just having my name in the credits. I was like, I did it, I still didn't know at that point, you can get paid for this, and there's much more to it. To me, it was a life achievement right there. Just having my name and being able to contribute to something that I love.
Yeah, that's a great answer. That's awesome. And, that's kind of I think of that, what you just said, in the realm of the skate park and street, and you had all of that, no doubt, at your disposal. So was it just grab a camera and then, go to the park and just find whoever it is, whoever came into town? Or
no, the way I got everybody's attention was I made a spot book. So basically teams kept coming to town, and I was trying to figure out every time I saw them, I'd be like, hey, I want to show you guys around. They'd be like, yeah, that's cool. So I figured, I'm going to go around and take a photo of every single skate spot. I'm going to then bring that on my laptop. So I brought it to a demo, and I showed the chocolate team, and I was like, hey, look, I got this laptop with all these spots. And they were like, that's insane. Show that to the filmer. They showed it to the filmer, and he was like, all right, you're going to show us around town. So that kind of sparked the idea. I was like, wait a minute, I have something valuable here. In order to really prove to people that I'm worth something, it's I need to actually show them. So I sent the spot book out to every company, and people just kept coming to town, for next year or two, and that's how I met everybody. Wow. And learned how to film.
Yeah, right. It just being battle tested almost out there with the guys, and brands like Chocolate. That's
totally
in the skate world. That's like a name. A big name.
Totally.
And you hit on something that kind of made it interesting for me. As a cinematographer, that's kind of an area that I've been studying and trying to get better at. And I feel like the best way for me to ever make the next step connection is through something like this.
Totally.
Right. Or, even just making content all the time.
Yeah.
So that people can see it.
Yep.
At what point did you realize you had to, as as a DP or a cinematographer, you had to brand yourself, not just like the content you were putting out, because no doubt that seems to be a running theme with a lot of guys that I've
I think without realizing it, I always try to brand myself. I mean, it's easy today to be like, well, when social media kicked in, that's when you started. But I think even when I sent out those spot books to companies, that was branding myself. I mean, you have to, if you're trying to get a job with a company, you need to make yourself more valuable than the next guy. You need to prove to people, if you want to work with them, like, well, why should I work with you or this, this guy? Yeah. So I think I was branding myself from the beginning without even realizing it. And then obviously when social media kicked in, that's when it was like, okay, I can now show the world this is my work and I'm working hard and this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm capable of doing. I mean, and off of social media, I've gotten a lot of jobs just because people have seen what I've shot or they see the gear that I have. So it helps a ton.
And that's crazy because for people like visual artists, like photographers and even I would say even like painters and stuff who don't really have that platform like a stage. Or, I mean, if you're an actor, you kind of get that acting real and all that stuff. But like now with social media and with housing like YouTube and Vimeo, you have a place to like put that and people can see it. And I know when you were coming up, that wasn't really there quite yet,
it didn't exist. And I mean, I'm also very fortunate to work for a company like DC Shoes that gives me a platform of theirs also. I mean, they're the ones that are lining up really cool creative projects. I mean, I've shot the most amazing like skateboarders in the world. I've shot a guy ride a motorcycle on the wave. I've shot lifestyle videos in random places all over the world. I've been given the opportunity to be involved in a lot of cool projects with a really good team. So that's helped me a ton.
Definitely. That's awesome. And some of those names that you were kind of mentioning, like Chris Cole is a legendary skater, Sean Malto from a kid. I saw one of your old cuts and he was like a young kid in it, and that's really cool.
I had the opportunity to work on like Sean's first big video part, so that came out with Transworld, and that was the one that like turned him pro and everything. So
crazy.
It's crazy to look back and be like, I've known Sean for over 10 years because I'm 35 now, but I feel like I'm young, so to look back and be like, we've known each other for how long? That's crazy. And then Chris Cole, I grew up, Chris Cole isn't much older than me, but yet I was in high school watching his video parts, dreaming of filming. I didn't even think it was possible. It wasn't even a dream. It was more of just, that's one of the best skateboarders in the world. And I ended up getting to film him on a daily basis. And he's a good friend of mine now. So that's really weird to look back on.
And that's crazy. And you mentioned as well, the guy dirtbagging on a wave, which was
that was Robbie Madison, Pipe Dream. Madison. Yeah. That was an insane project to work on, to obviously never shoot anything like that, not have much experience. And the crew that went out there, I mean, it was a full skate crew. We had like, it was my buddy Martin, my buddy Sam, EJ, Devin, this director, my buddy Jeff Taylor, who was like in charge of the whole thing too. And there was a lot of people out there, a lot more people I'm forgetting, but it was the majority of the filmers, they were like skate filmers. So for us to film skateboarding and then go out and we're on the water filming a guy riding a motorcycle on the wave, this is definitely different project than ever, and a huge project.
Well, that's awesome. And like this show is not primarily suited to any one like part of the arts. Like I have a lot of performers on here. I also have, you and Abe and different guys like that as well on here. I wanted to ask you kind of, maybe this is a different interview topic than what you normally get, but what's the importance of the other areas of the arts, like around the skate world, around even the film world, like acting and all that stuff? Has that ever been
I would say marketing has played a big role in filmmaking for me, especially working for a brand. I mean, the goal at the end of the day is to sell a lot of shoes, right? So, we might be making a skateboard video in Australia next month, but we need to sell a lot of shoes. How do we tell this story global to the entire world, and I think I've always been really intrigued by like pleasing the core audience, but then also pleasing like this mainstream audience. So I like being in the middle of that. That challenge is kind of fun, where I'm like, okay, let's please everybody. let's try to deliver what's best for the brand to sell shoes and make sure everybody's happy. So
yeah, that's awesome. Very concise too. I like the little tidbits we're getting. I think it's easy for people to like pick up on people who like can summarize things really well and not be too long-winded. I was going to ask now, and this is something maybe we can go back and forth on, because I think we've got all of the prerequisite stuff out of the way. How hard do you have to work to get where you want to go? And that's like a big question for so many people on the come up. And at what point do you see talent as something that's inherently something you should follow, like an instinct, versus, just an aspiration?
I mean, I couldn't tell you like, oh, you're going to be able to do this if you work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, or if I told you, work 5. I couldn't put like hours on it necessarily. I'd say you have to go with what your passion is. I mean, for me, I've been doing this for almost 15 years professionally, which is crazy, because to me it feels like less than 5. But that's because I've loved it and it hasn't dragged out over time, and if I didn't like doing this, this would be the slowest time ever, so I think that you have to be doing something that you love, and if you absolutely love something, time's not really an issue. I think that you plant your seeds and you make things happen and they grow. So I absolutely I think you just have to be dedicated. You have to really love it. You have to want to do it. And that's the most important thing. If you're just bored and you're like, okay, I'm not that good at skating, and so I'll be a skate filmer, or I'll be a filmmaker. It's like, no, you're really going to hate it. Anything that you do, you should absolutely love.
Yes, that's totally true. And I the funny thing is, the people that I've looked up to, I've seen that because they had a love so much for what they were doing, and had always had a love, that it took them to that next level without even, they tried really hard, but then at the same time, their talent carried over to then get them to that next spot. This kind of prompts a new question that I was thinking about, and something I ask is, what defines success? Because I've kind of interact with a lot of friends my age versus my parents versus even an older generation. And the definition of success has changed over time. Yeah. And I think it's person by person, right?
It's kind of an different for everybody. It's totally different for everybody. And I think that it's like, for me personally, it was having goals and achieving them. Whether that was that first clip that I filmed in a video and I got my name in the credits, to being able to film like a pro I really looked up to, check that off, being able to go on a tour, doing those different things, make a full length video. It just went on and on and on, and I've been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to check off all those boxes that I've wanted to do, especially in skateboarding and action sports.
Now, does that continue forward? Because I know that is a yes for a lot of people, that they're still picking their goals and picking, and fighting their battles to get to that next level and better themselves.
Yeah, for me, it's like how I said, like skateboarding, so tunnel vision. I've definitely branched out, and I'm shooting, like more commercials, narratives, music videos, a lot of NFL stuff. So for me, it's been, okay, they're just different goals, you know what I mean? I'm still going the same direction, but yet it might be a different lane, and I love skateboarding, so I'm always going to shoot that. But I also want to be able to shoot other stuff. That's important to me. And because those are the goals that I have right now to check off.
Right. Do you ever feel like, because of your background, this is something I've always wondered about, because of your background being, and this could be for anybody, but because as a filmmaker, say you choose music videos to start, is there a pressure to stay that way? It's sounding like, like if you pick the genre
for sure
that you film and you shoot, does that mean you stay with it your whole life? Or do you feel like you have more ability to
I think in skateboarding is like, can be a really harsh industry sometimes. And I think, I would say today it's probably a lot more open than it was, but 5 years ago, the idea of a skateboard film or a skateboarder going off and doing something outside of skateboarding, people weren't really fond of that. And I've kind of stepped back and looked at it and go, you know what, like, I've given what I have to skateboarding and I absolutely love it. And I think I've proven that to everybody. So I want to do this also. And it's what I want to do. And that's what's important to me. Maybe if somebody else might say, hey, I think it's really whack that you're filming, the Kardashians this weekend. It's like, that's fine. Like, you could think that way, but if I want to do it because like maybe I'm into it, you know, maybe that's what I want to do that weekend. So I've kind of always worried about myself and my family after, you know, everything really.
Yeah. And that's really interesting because like I'm a firm believer, and this is subject to change as I grow older too, but like I'm a firm believer that you need to, whether or not you feel peer pressured by other people, you need to stick to what you know is true.
Yeah.
Because if you let everybody box you in, then what kind of a life are you going to lead? You know, when you die, are you going to feel like you led a good life? I don't know if you...
No, I agree 100%, because I mean, it's like, there's things that I want to do that somebody else isn't into, and that's totally fine. You know, not everybody should be into the same thing. I mean, dude, there's things that I've been asked to film that I go, I just don't want to film that. I'm not interested. Even if it's like good money, I'm just like, it doesn't excite me, you know? And then there's things that are really exciting to me, and I'll do it for really cheap. It's like, it goes all ways, both ways, everything.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly like you said, I think it's, you know, that's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah, I always wonder about that, and a big push for the show is like getting under the skin, because not that it is supposed to be vulnerable necessarily, but I felt like there was so many interviews, and like from our stance, like from this show, it's the opposite of what a lot of podcasts will do.
Yeah.
Like the guys already have, one guy or multiple people already have a career, they're already established and known. Where I'm coming at this the opposite way. So I feel like instead of, you know, screwing off and just making the time that is valuable just wasteful by just talking about a lot of crap, I want to kind of get under that layer and expose some stuff. So I'm glad that you're kind of working back and forth with me on this. And I guess that poses another question that I'm thinking right now is, you know, you kind of mentioned if you're trying to push really, really, really hard to get what you want to get, but you still want to be open to a ton of different things. Is there some sort of a balance, like a strategic way to not have yourself look like you're falling into a category that you don't want to? Like, you still want to maintain an image, like professionally. How does that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to balance it, and you have to be smart, and you have to really, you know, you have to calculate your decisions and with timing, you know. I mean, there's sometimes there's opportunities that I really want, but I can't take because it will affect what I've already committed to, you know. So I think that, you know, I don't want to burn bridges. I don't want to tell people yes and then no, or you know, it's important to really like take a step back and think about what you want to do and what your end goal is. And a lot of times too, like I'll get kids that will tell me like, I'm trying to be a filmer, and they quit everything, and that's all they're trying to do. And I'm like, but you need like gas money, you need money for gear, you need to like supply this because it's not going to pay you right away. I mean, I was working a part-time job in the morning from like 6 to noon every day, and then going out from 1 until 2 in the morning filming, and then I'd go back to work. And I was okay with that because I knew that one day this is going to pay off and it's going to work, you know, and it's what I love doing.
Yeah. And that seems like it's the formula in a sense. Maybe obviously it varies per person, but I keep hearing that, you know, we mentioned it earlier, but that endearing sense in your personality to keep going after what you love and continue to do it nonstop. Because this is another question I was going to ask, because I'm curious about this myself. At what point, like, because you have to take jobs, even if you don't love them, because then, you know, for me, this is what I mean by this is I felt like I turned a corner when I started saying yes to a bunch of different things that I didn't love, but you still need it because that earns you some sort of a connection you never thought you would make, maybe. I don't know.
Well, no, I had a really funny opposite one where, because I got really lucky where I went straight into skateboarding because that's what I wanted to do. So any skateboarding job is incredible because skateboarding is awesome. That's where I wanted to be. But then when I started getting offered other jobs, it really stressed me out because I didn't know if I could do it. So the idea of myself hoping I don't get the job or hoping that it gets canceled, it was me doubting myself. So I mean, dude, when I get offered a non-skateboarding job that I'm not comfortable with, that stresses me out. It scares me. I'm worried. But there's no better feeling than taking that job and being like, okay, can I do this? Am I gonna be able to pull that off? And then achieving it. That's, to me, that's huge.
For sure.
You know? But dude, there's so many times that I just want to be like, please don't offer me this job. Please don't call me to do this because
right.
I'm scared,
mm-hmm.
you know? And I
mm-hmm.
think that a lot of people probably get that same feeling.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Something I've been getting more because I've been getting out there on some pro sets, mm-hmm. like narrative pro sets, and just kind of getting into it and feeling completely overwhelmed.
Totally.
And there's, you know, like, as we've been sharing, like, there's that point where you want to come
mm-hmm.
around the corner, turn the corner.
Totally.
And sometimes the opposition seems like so great.
Yeah.
And something I think about, even when I op, like if I'm
mm-hmm.
opping on set,
mm-hmm.
operating, and, you know, there's a great DP or something,
yeah.
and it's like there's suddenly all this pressure
totally.
that you put on yourself.
Yeah.
But yet, you're not going to ditch it
mm-hmm.
because you love it so much.
Yep.
When you get approached with a situation like that, if you have
yeah.
like a big platform
yeah.
and it's not controlled filmmaking,
totally.
What's the process like? What goes through your head when you're trying to level out?
Dude, I mean, it's funny because I mean, dude, the you talk about the stress and the pressure, and it's big time in this industry, you know, as especially nowadays as a filmmaker with how much content you have to put out and how much you have to do. Sometimes I think I'm like, man, why do I put myself through this? Like, I just want to go. Some days I'm like, I just want to go work at Staples and sell printer ink and go home at 6 o'clock and not be bothered by anybody and just not have any pressure and just be happy. But I'm not that kind of person.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I've told my friends that, and they're like, dude, if you worked at Staples selling printer ink, you would be trying to start your own printer ink company, and you would be like studying it super hard. And he's like, I just can't do it. And it's because I love this, but the pressure does get to you. It is a job.
Yeah.
You know, I can't sit here and be like, skate or just filming and skateboarding is my dream job and it's 100% the best all the time. It's not always the best. There's definitely bad moments, and you just have to get through it. You know, every job is going to have that every experience, and every job's not going to be awesome. But to deal with the pressure, I think it's just something you have to just learn. You have to have confidence. The best thing that's happened with me is that I have an amazing team. You know, I surround myself with really good filmmakers. The DC crew that I have, it's the best dudes. So I go into a job and it's stressful. These guys have my back. I have their back. And it's like we're in it together. I don't feel like I'm so solo, you know? So I think surrounding yourself with a good team is the most important thing.
Awesome. That's great. And that kind of leads me into thinking, and this is kind of a side trail here, but you have a favorite setup? I was just thinking, like, do you have a favorite rig? Do you have a favorite, let's start with like favorite rig, like dolly.
I'd say like the FreeFly Movi Pro is like definitely my favorite thing. I mean, I've been a fan of that system, and it's one of those funny things that, you know, you could have a guy standing in the middle of a football field and you just have that Movi Pro and you're moving towards him in super slow-mo and it just looks incredible. You know what I mean? For whatever reason, like, it just makes it look incredible. And so, yeah, I love shooting on the Movi Pro. When I get home and I watch the footage, I'm just like, it's like cheating. It's so funny how good it is.
It's, and the in-camera stable, I'm geeking out for a second, but the in-camera stabilization in cameras is nuts. Like, we were looking at the GH5 that Nate has, and it's like, it's nuts because it's built into the rig now, and you don't even have to buy a rig for it to be like completely still. Do you have a favorite cinema camera that you like to use?
I mean, I shoot on a Red. Helium is what I'm shooting on right now. So, I mean, I've been using Red for the last 5 years. In my bag, it's like I have a Red camera, a GH5, and GoPro, and that's pretty much my kit of what I run with.
Awesome. We were talking with Abe, I think, about just kind of how the new GoPro 7 Hero 7 has that built-in stabilizer.
So good.
And it's this big and it still has it. And
it's mind-blowing.
It's
when they told me that was going to be in the camera and I wouldn't need to use a gimbal, I didn't believe them. I honestly did not believe them on these. Like, there's just no way. And I got it and I tested it and I was like, okay, this is game-changing. Like, that really is game-changing.
Totally.
Yeah.
From somebody who started back in the early days with like camcorders and stuff. And were you in the 2000s? Is that when you kind of came up, or the 90s?
What it would be like, I would say, I was filming with 8mm cameras first.
Wow.
And then the Sony VX1000, which is like the icon of skateboarding cameras. That's what I eventually like got when I was in high school. Yeah. And I used that all the way up until, I would say like maybe 2007, 2008. That's what I was filming with.
And so many of those early skate videos had a fish that just has that iconic style for
and
the genre.
There's still people pushing that camera and that look. It's insane how
almost 30 years later.
Yeah, it still has a cult following. It's still, the best fisheye, best audio and everything. So
wow.
Yeah.
And what I was going at with that is, when you compare a camera like GoPro, like when you first saw a GoPro and you took it out.
Yeah.
Did you feel a weird similarity with like what you started with versus like this tiny camera that has kind of a fish lens and kind of has that look?
I think it was more of a strange feeling to use a different camera. And I think that the skateboarding was stuck on one camera for so long that we didn't really think about branching out, and I think that once we put it underneath the skateboard, we were the first ones to do that in the Transworld video, and that's when our minds were blown, because you were seeing a perspective that had never been seen before. So that shocked everybody. That shocked ourselves.
That was the coolest shot.
That was the coolest thing ever, and that blew my mind. Where I was like, okay, GoPro camera is a camera that you stick in places that are unique. It's different. It's not going to break as easy. I'm going to attach the GoPro to a rail. I'm probably not going to attach my Red to the rail. Mm-hmm. So
yeah. From there, I guess I would go into, how do you see, where do you see the future of skate filmmaking going? Because with all of these new codecs and raw formats and cameras that are shooting better than we can even perceive with the human eye, does that help or hurt? Because you just talked about how that this original camera that you used, how that camera is still used as a as a look, as a current camera. Where do you see the future going? Because ultimately, Red's probably going to keep upping their software and.
Yeah, I think everybody's going to keep upping their software. It's crazy that now I can hand any professional skateboarder a GoPro and I don't have to be there. He can go and shoot it, So I'm excited that people can create content all the time, even if I'm not around. Where most people might go like, oh, that really sucks as a filmmaker. That sucks maybe as job security. But I think there's different ways of sharing content and shooting content, and I think that the filmmakers will always like kind of have that bar of like telling a story or like shooting a commercial. But I do like that somebody can go and do a skateboard trick and the whole world can see it and they can love it, even if it wasn't shot on a Red camera.
Right.
So I think it's exciting, and it's I'm not going to sit there and try to fight technology, because I'm not going to win that battle. These cameras are getting way better, and people can shoot something on their phone and it looks awesome, and that's exciting to me.
Yeah, it is. It is exciting, and it's cool, because at what point, this is more of like a technical thing, because I'm thinking like, at what point does an 8K, who knows, maybe 10K sensor or 12K sensor, at what point does it become too much? Because like, I think the human eye sees like 3K at most or something like that. It might be more.
Really?
I've heard that. I
got ripped off then. I bought that Red camera. So.
I think it's for the depth of field and stuff, like unbelievable camera. Red's an incredible camera.
Yeah.
But at what point do you think it becomes too much?
I think it's the quality wise, I don't really battle with. It's when it becomes a hassle shooting. So like, if I'm going out skateboarding and my camera takes forever to power up, or like, files are too big and I'm running into, as soon as I run into issues that people can't skateboard the way that they always have, that's when I have a problem. I want my camera to turn on. I want to be able to capture skateboarding, whether I'm capturing it with a phone or an 8K camera, I want it to be a smooth process for the skateboarder or the talent that I'm shooting. Right. So the second that like technology starts to affect the workflow, I have an issue.
Okay. That totally makes sense. Yeah. And speaking on the same subject, I was going to go back to the stress factor on set, like when you're out there, you know, and doing it in production, does that pressure and stress stop in post? Depending on, I guess
it really depends on the project.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't always love editing, you know. I love filming more than editing, but it really depends. Sometimes it clicks and you're like, I can't wait to edit this, and then sometimes you get back and you're like, I gotta figure this out. What are we gonna do to make this work? But yeah, it's the stress is always there until the thing is actually released, I think, you know. And it's funny because I hate the stress, but I also love it. You know, like if I'm not getting pressured, it means that it's not being challenged, it's not being pushed to be better. And I think that the pressure also helps because it shows if I'm stressed out, that means I care. You know what I mean? I care about it. Where instead of just being like, it doesn't matter, just put it out. You know, I don't want to have that attitude. I want to be giving it my full effort. You know, Definitely. Nowadays I look at it and I go, hey man, once this goes online, it's online forever. So we can't take it back and do a little re-edit. I mean, you know, it's on there.
Yeah. And with these platforms, we touched on this earlier with social media, and the platforms like YouTube, where, you know, DC has in the millions of followers, and even GoPro, I was talking about how, you know, their Instagram is 15 million and most celebrities don't even have 5.
Yeah.
The impact that social media has on this next coming generation of filmmakers, and even for the ones that have had to adapt to it, like you have coming up through it, do you feel like DC jumped on that, you know, social media trend when it was kind of in the upstart? Like, do you guys feel like it kind of helped
I think
with that
they
growth?
always, like, that's one thing I think DC has always been really good at is content creation. I think that they've always been the brand that is constantly trying to do stuff to get eyes obviously on the company. You know, I mean, it's not a company that can just kick back and everybody's going to say, we love you, you know, for doing nothing. Like, we have to do something, you know, but I'm a fan of that. I think that's a great thing. Yeah. So they've always been really good about creating content and having projects and being super busy and pushing social media and getting all eyes on it. Yeah.
And, you know, I'm thinking this now that you just said that there's, you know, there's all of these action sports companies that sort of, I wouldn't say they butt heads necessarily, but they all kind of compete with each other to one up each other, right? Because it's next level stuff. I think about Red Bull and everything that, you know, Red Bull ups their game all the time with everything. You guys up your game all the time, GoPro and
I mean, there's a lot of shoes companies out there. I mean, everybody, you know, you can only wear one pair of shoes at a time, and we're all trying to get everybody to wear our pair, you know?
Yeah. So that's cool though. I feel like you guys are all pushing each other to get better, and over time, like from me growing up and watching Tony Hawk in the X Games to where it's at now, and Street League and all of this stuff is out, like off the charts. Nigel Houston is, and people are crazy. It's unbelievable, even athletically, where people are taking their, you know, their next steps.
Well, I think it's like it's funny because you were talking about like maybe like competition and stuff, but I've always been one to, when another company does a project, like let's say even if it's Nike, I'm not going to dislike it just because they're competition or they're Nike. You know, like I look at it as a honest, fair, you know, opinion of is this cool? Do I like this? Because one, like, other people can make cool stuff even if you don't work for them, and two, it's going to inspire me, you know, and I want to be kept on my toes. I want to be able to, you know, I don't look at it as more as a competition. It is more as inspiration, and I go, that's awesome, they did that, we could do something maybe better, we could do something of that level, or we've done something that level. Like, I absolutely love it. You know what I mean? It's I surround myself with good people, and I want to be inspired by what I watch too.
Yeah, innovators. It's a bunch of innovators.
Absolutely.
And when I think of the skate world, specifically skate, there's nothing safe about it. Everything about it is get out there, physically get out there and do something that pushes the limits. But then also all the companies stand for that. And it's like
they have
so
to,
cool.
man. You can get. It's funny. This industry has so much control. Like I think that companies that have, like different categories in it, whether it's like skate, snow, and everything else. Mm-hmm. If your skate isn't cool, nothing else is. And skate has so much power, and so much influence over everything. And dude, to be accepted in skateboarding, it's not easy. It's not like you can just walk in and go, hey, we're this new company or we're this new idea. It's like, wait a minute, like we're gonna decide how this is. So it's pretty crazy to be a part of that and see that.
Yeah. Would you argue, this is kind of like getting toward the end here, but would you argue that skateboarding, this might be a stretch, but do you argue that skate is like the hardest professional sport to be a part of because of the quantity of athletes? Like I just kind of came up with, as opposed to like football and basketball, like NBA, NFL.
I mean, I would say, I haven't obviously worked in all sports, but skateboarding I think is definitely the most unique one for sure. I would say it's definitely the most interesting one, and I think it's the one that you can't even explain to people. I just don't think people really like fully understand the differences in skateboarding and the way that people are and what's accepted and what's not accepted. I mean, you have to like really be in the mix to understand it and know. So it's that's a hard question to answer, but it's because I'm in it, I'd like to say yes. I'd like to say like, well, absolutely.
You're supposed to say yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably.
So, but I mean, I'm guessing, dude, it's definitely the hardest ones.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for bouncing ideas back with me and kind of dissecting things. And I wanted to give you kind of a little segment into camera promoting whatever you got coming. Anything for you personally or for the company or whatever you got. Go ahead, right?
Cool. Right, so, we're doing a bunch of stuff for DC shoes this whole next year. So a lot of cool content will be coming out. Working on a Chase Webb Real Street part that'll be out after the new year. A lot of cool stuff though from DC. I mean, a lot of skate stuff, a lot of lifestyle stuff, a lot of stuff that we have planned that I've never, even shot and edited. So a lot of new challenges, and that's exciting that it's still in the company that I'm with. And hopefully I just keep getting challenged with new experiences and just keep it going. As long as I keep a camera in my hand, that's what I'm going to keep doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, follow Chris on Instagram. Are you on all?
Yeah, everything's Chris Ray Films.
Chris Ray Films. Yep. I'll throw up a lower third for him, and then follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at 1 in 20 Show. We're excited to keep pushing forward. I think this is technically our second road episode. Cool. We got more coming up, which is exciting to be away from the home studio and be in places like this, which are totally rad. Thanks for following along, and we'll catch you soon.